All right. There we go. Go ahead, Gabe. Sorry. Yeah, we're on. I flubbed the intro. Go ahead. And this is Carl Pauls. We are on several networks now. You can watch us here on YouTube at the Ecomodernist channel. You can also watch us on Facebook on the Ecomodernist Society of North America page, on Twitter at my Twitter handle, Carl Alex Pauls, on Trovo at the Thorium channel, on OK.ru at Thorium or Nuclear News, and on Twitch at Your Environment Seattle. You can keep up with discussion around our episodes on Facebook at the Ecomodernist Channel Live Discussion Group. Yep, just it's really hard to see, but the name is Kurt, just as he put it in. Thanks for stopping by. Just noticed we were in the wrong category on Twitch. That should be fixed. Still in soft launch, I suppose, and working out the kinks in the show. We'll start promoting it after we have a good run of show. How about that? That's right. We're about an hour late. So yeah. And special announcement, next Saturday, around the time the show's usually on. In fact, it will also be delayed, and it will be, or maybe we'll have our private meeting first. But for our stream, we're going to have Seattle Friends of Fission showing you Stand Up for Nuclear in downtown Seattle in Westlake Park. It may be a little rainy, so hopefully the 5G reception is good and I can have a good stream in the middle of downtown Seattle and show you all of us standing up for nuclear to support electrification in Washington State and support Columbia Generating Station and to support our new experimental reactors in Richland, Washington. So with that, how about the news? All right, here we are. And we'll have chat on screen as well. So if we've got any chatters hanging out there, we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of nuclear energy. So starting out, we have... Oh, why did it do that? Great. We have Illinois Senate passes an energy bill that could keep Byron and Dresden nuclear plants open. And the rumor has it that this is also passed in the other chamber of the Illinois legislature as well. I think they have a House and a Senate. So, the Byron nuclear plant could stay open after Illinois senators passed their version of their clean energy bill Wednesday morning. The bill still needs support of House Representatives and Governor J.B. Pritzker, and I believe that this passed 83 to 30 something. So that would be a veto-proof majority. And if it's veto-proof in both chambers, then perhaps it can go on without Pritzker's support. Exelon is prepared to close the Byron plant in September and the Dresden plant in November because of the nuclear plant's inability to compete with the cheap power being produced from shale gas, often extracted through hydraulic fracking. According to Exelon, the Dresden and Byron plants face revenue shortcomings because of market rules that allow fossil fuel plants to underbid them. At odds are labor and environmental groups because of the inability to agree on when fossil fuel plants should shut down, forcing Exelon to file its decommissioning reports in July, one of the last steps before closing the plant. If the Byron plant were to close, roughly 720 people who work on the site would be out of a job, and $97.5 million in annual employee compensation would be stripped from the local economy, according to the economic impact study prepared by Brian Harger, a senior research specialist at NIU. State Senator Steve Stadelman, Democrat of Rockford, voted for the bill and views it as an investment in Illinois workers and the environment. The truth is, we cannot burn fossil fuels forever. They're a limited resource, and we know they damage our environment, Stadelman said in a news release. Let's start transitioning people to renewable energy jobs before plants are closed, and thousands of Illinois residents don't know where their next paychecks will come from. And I'll go ahead and look up the Twitter on that because I saw several tweets, and I thought this was the latest reporting. But I saw a lot of noise about the other chambers having passed that. Any reaction, folks? Is this good news or what? Yeah, let's bring up electricity. Oh no, electricity map's not going to do that because it's all the MISO. Electricity mix. That'll do it. It's kind of a mystery, isn't it? Because natural gas and the whole shale fracking industry has been reported to be run at a loss. But I think the answer there is that when you use hydraulic fracking to crack open that shale formation, you get both gas and you get oil. And so if the price of oil goes up, then gas doesn't need to carry all of the financial burden of operating that well. So as much as they can hope to get out of that gas, they will, of course. But if people prefer other energy sources, they'll use those. So things like wind and solar or other renewables that receive some production tax credit, those are going to be preferred, being the cheapest. And they are generally, for the next available dollar investment, renewables do tend to be fairly competitive. Unfortunately, natural gas is needed, and natural gas receives a bunch of capacity credit for backing up the wind and the solar. And so gas gets extra compensation because it's backing up wind and solar. So in essence, that price of the gas itself is just a cherry on top, that basically these gas plants get to run whenever the wind isn't blowing. And so here's the stats. Nuclear is 52.6% of Illinois electricity in 2016. Wind is 5.7. Hopefully it's much higher now. and coal is a monstrous 31.7 degrees. Well, they don't get much sun in Illinois, and so it's probably part of that 0.7%. That would be my guess. They might have some geothermal, they might have some recovered methane, or maybe that's in the natural gas fraction of 9.3%. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Return return on investment. Yeah. It's got to be pretty slim, and so EROEI is one of those stats where even things like methanol is going to have a very slight 1.3 EROEI, so it only gets 30% added energy compared to what was invested in it to produce that corn alcohol for to replace a little bit of gasoline. So it is, it's a bit of a scam. Corn, ethanol and biodiesel are both below 2, and solar can't be much higher than that. It might be below 2 as well, especially in temperate. Oh wow. I see the study from 2016 says it's 0.83. That's amazing. Well, hopefully, photovoltaics has gotten more efficient than this since 2016. So let's cross our fingers and hope that it's getting better because, 350 Seattle is all in favor of putting solar panels on every school in the area, and they're very, very. In fact, that's part of the DSA's Green New Deal for Schools idea is to put solar panels on top of every school, and it has to be at least one to break even. But at one, you're just shifting energy from America to China, essentially, because we're not building these panels in America. I mean, almost never. We had a silicon smelter in Newport, Washington, that was blocked by environmentalists. That they don't want to build solar in America, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Oh wow, that's amazing. We'll have to check Meredith's book, Shorting the Grid, and hopefully we can get some information on that, because that would be rather scandalous if if things like that were true. Hmm. Yeah, and I remember this video now. Yeah, this is the Illinois energy professor on YouTube, and he does a wonderful job. And I just realized my face is getting pink because of the background. Let me purple. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. And so yeah, and so in this video he goes over the economics, and I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. Sorry, my family is yelling at me because I lock them out, so I'm gonna go rescue them. Would you like to watch this video, or some of it maybe? Okay, so I'm gonna put you back on screen, and you have a chat while I address this. Great. Ready for the next story? It was a busy morning for my family today. So the let's see, was this next one is unlike Illinois, California is unfortunately moving quickly to shut down the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. And so CPUC approves a $3.9 billion decommissioning cost for Diablo Canyon power plant. And what they've hidden below the fold will not be super surprising for those who know how nuclear decommissionings actually work. Pacific Gas and Electric company's $3.9 billion estimate to decommission Diablo Canyon Power Plant was approved Thursday by the California Public Utilities Commission, which will bump up customer utility bills, a PG&E spokeswoman said. Now, pay attention to that claim. Bump up their utility bills. The decision means PG&E customers can expect a monthly bill increase for 8 years, starting in January, as the utility company collects approximately $900 million to fund the decommissioning project, the spokeswoman said. So those two things together, I looked it up, and Diablo Canyon has a decommissioning trust. What that means is that the cost to decommission the reactor is constantly taken out as you pay your bills. As the nuclear plant operates, basically the first few dollars of every megawatt goes to that decommissioning trust. So they've built up a trust of nearly $3 billion, and the remainder, that $900 million, comes from ratepayers. Well, it was coming from ratepayers before. The difference now is that you're paying an increased price of electricity because of the decision to shut down, and because that decommissioning is owed, it's still owed, so they have to make up for it on the backs of those ratepayers. Finishing the article for a second. Yeah, absolutely. And it's about 25% longer than when it started up in the 80s. So another 5 or so years will be able to completely satisfy that fund. They might get into that through this article. Let's skim ahead. Right. Well, I don't see it covered here, but I'm familiar with the decision. Basically, what happened is that California passed a law that specified that no power plant should operate with once-through cooling. That any power plant operating should have to have a cooling tower, should have to have a way of letting those thermals into the atmosphere rather than into their water body, their adjacent water body. And so what typically happens at a nuclear power plant is that they will outlet between 101 and 105 degree Fahrenheit hot water. But if they have a cooling tower, they essentially never outlet any water, because so much water gets evaporated, it takes all the heat up the cooling towers, and then it's only water brought in. The water is evaporated and the heat released into the atmosphere then. And so the next story absolutely applies. California to let gas plants stay open as time runs low for climate action. Get this centered in the frame there. Yeah. So state officials threw a lifeline for 4 fossil-fueled power plants along the Southern California coast, deciding the facilities are still needed to provide reliable electricity even as they contribute to the climate crisis. That's gas plants, and gas plants put out about 400 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, unlike nuclear, which puts out 0 after it's been constructed, or nearly 0, like maybe half a gram because of the refining, because of the enrichment, and a total over the 40-year lifespan is 12 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, according to the IPCC. Yeah, that's exactly it. So Tuesday's vote by State Water Resources Control Board to let the gas plants keep operating past the end of this year followed brief rolling blackouts over 2 evenings last month, as a heat wave caused air conditioning demand to soar and California found itself short on electricity supplies. Energy regulators are still investigating the causes of the power shortage, but they said allowing the coastal plants to stay open for a few more years would help prevent more outages as California continues its transition to cleaner energy sources. An ironic solution given that climate change almost certainly exacerbated the recent heat wave. The 4 facilities were supposed to shut down by December 31st, 2020, under a regulation requiring coastal power plants to stop using ocean water for cooling, a process that kills fish and other marine life. But Tuesday's decision granted a 3-year extension to natural gas plants in Huntington Beach, Long Beach, and Oxnard, and a 1-year extension to a Redondo Beach plant. So yeah, this is that same once through cooling rule that's shutting down Diablo Canyon. Right. Well, Diablo Canyon is going to stay open until 2024, thankfully. But what do you bet one or more of these gets another extension? Because these are being run up until Diablo Canyon shuts down. And so what's going to replace Diablo Canyon? More gas? They're going to rebuild a gas plant or add cooling towers to these gas plants? It's good. It's a distinct possibility that these will just be kept open, because it'll save a few dollars. Fish, spawning fish, essentially their eggs will 90% will die. And that's just the fact of the matter, is that most fish do not survive to adulthood. Warm waters around nuclear plants attract fish for some reason. So maybe it's the attracting the fish that brings them close to the plant. Maybe it is a genuine harm to the ecology, or maybe it's entirely made up. It's one of those things that I'm not an expert in, but there's this great deal of evidence around the fact of thermal outlets, especially into an enormous body of water like the Pacific Ocean. What actual harm could it be causing? Yeah, and I got feedback from the chat. I'm very sorry. What's going on? Oh no. Okay, someone else say something.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Very sorry. Soft launch disease that
Yeah.
I think you were muted on the stream, and that's my fault again.
Okay. Working through the bumps. This is going to be a fabulous show someday.
Someday. Very sorry. Okay.
It would help if you're purple again, because that Klingon look, it works with you, man.
It works. All right. So hopefully that's fixed.
Bring back the purple. Bring back the purple, man.
Let me go ahead and connect to Facebook. I should have done
Star
this
Trek
myself. And listen myself. Okay, great. Brian tells us, thank you, Brian, that we're all audible. And sorry for flubbing that. One more technical issue. This is why I need to be behind the scenes, so I'm not presenting and producing. But I mean, the more hands make light work. Thank you, Brian, again. You want to, anyone have something you want to say about either of these articles? I'll just let you talk for a bit.
Yeah, I was, Phil, what? I don't know. I'll put this out. Colby Kirk he's a very good speaking voice. Perhaps he could, you could engineer it and he could, maybe if he wants to, he could be on the show as the person, you know? Tell you the truth, I'm not the greatest speaker either. You know?
Yeah, the problem is Colby's a pretty busy guy. So,
okay.
I mean, he might, I just know that his family's like moving households right now. So they're like kind of stressed out for this month. So,
well, you know, I could put out a,
wouldn't hurt to ask him.
yeah, yeah, well, I don't know. He might like the idea, or he maybe just be too busy. I don't really know. You think it's worth asking him? Because I could put out a feeler.
We can always find more people.
Yeah, Sorry,
go ahead. I was going to say we can always train up more people to run the show. It's just sort of one of my hobbies to do streaming. So, you know, maybe it's just practice where I'll get this down and we'll be able to have an official launch. I was hoping for some commentary about the articles, though.
Yeah, well, you know, we're kind of making that commentary now, and you're a very good speaker, by the way.
Thank you.
You know, like I say, you're better than me. I think one of the reasons why I haven't had a lot of success is because I'm not the best. I have a thick accent and whatever, you know. You know. So.
All right, but I think if I remember, there were some great comments about the about Byron and Dresden, you know, asking if it passed both houses, and I wasn't able to find the hint that, but I heard the rumor somewhere in my doom scrolling. I thought I saw that both chambers may have passed it, and I think there's a few good questions that I answered here.
Yeah,
mostly complaining about how it's sort of a bad financial decision. I think is the gist of it. Is this once through cooling law has cost consumers at least $900 million for something that's not really well established in fact that this is this an actual environmental harm or not?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, California wants to have enough power to run all their cars as EVs, and that alone, I think, they're gonna need to triple the amount of power. I mean, that they have in order. I don't know if that works for California, but that's like the average for the country. You know, that I saw a video was calculating what it would cost in terms of energy. They said, like the guy said, it's doable, but you got to triple the amount of energy that you produce in order to have all your cars be EVs, you know, or even if it's not EVs, have them have synfuel, let's say, and EVs or whatever it is, you know, even to improve their light rail, you know, or to have, you know, what do you say, high-speed rail and all of that stuff. They're going to need a lot more power. And this is like, they're already flimsy. So this is an extremely bad decision. One other thing, I mean, there's a recall going on. This is like a perfect time to call Governor Newsom, I don't care what state you're in, and tell him you want those plants to stay open. Because maybe if he's getting a lot of calls and combined with the pressure of this recall, that might make them flip on that issue.
That would be amazing if we had you know, a legislative turnaround because of the climate crisis, and I don't expect much from the California legislature or the governor. Even if the recall occurs, I don't expect that the new governor would be able to do much, but we can always hope. Has anyone heard? Are the coming candidates for the recall against Gavin Newsom? Are they promising anything like any kind of executive order or some kind of legislative package that could save Diablo Canyon?
I know Larry Elder wants to keep them open, but I don't know anything much beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a great promise if he can get it done. I'd love to hear details about that. In fact, if he's able to make a really good climate message, I would expect that to at least win over some Californians.
Yeah, and he's got baggage though too. I mean, other than that, like he said that if he doesn't win, it's because they got cheated automatically. I mean, and also like he doesn't believe in mask mandates. I mean, I don't know. That kind of talk from candidates is scary. Both of those statements are scary.
Yeah, it's like everyone left or right has their little bits of baggage. The Democrats are just lost on, the science of energy and climate, and folks like Larry Elder are lost on masks and vaccines. Unfortunately, we're kind of stuck in the middle supporting science.
Yeah, it's all like it's like a big boob squad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it would be. I just like to play devil's advocate because I think it would be interesting because California is it's basically a trifecta constantly of Democrat rule. So, I mean, if by some weird fluke, someone like Larry Elder won, I don't think he could do that much damage, but still, though, it's kind of silly that they have a recall election anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't even have a two-step process. They go straight to who's your new governor right away. Very, very odd.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's going to be, if it succeeds, it will be Elder, because there is no other strong candidate after Newsom. This is what I've heard. I don't know.
That seems to be the conventional wisdom. So let's jump, because we started to talk about the package deals that could come down to replace Diablo Canyon. And so there's very many proposals. So this from San Luis Obispo, Gene Nelson writing, is California on track to meet clean energy goals without Diablo Canyon? It's doubtful. Economics is given short shrift in the SLO Tribune's editorial, "Ready or not, Diablo Canyon is closing, and California will just have to adjust." Diablo Canyon is the region's largest private sector employer. If the plant were to be relicensed for another 20 years, it would pump over $20 billion into our region's economy. Also, keeping Diablo Canyon open will help California meet its ambitious clean energy goals. The safe plant's rugged foundation, emplaced in bedrock 85 feet above sea level, was built in the location on California's coast least vulnerable to earthquakes and tsunamis. So unlike our natural gas supply that is reliant on aging and vulnerable transmission lines, Diablo Canyon will likely be up and running after a major earthquake, providing reliable electricity for recovery. Furthermore, California's electricity rates are the highest in the continental U.S., with rolling blackouts last summer and more blackouts probable this year. This is not the time to shut down an emission-free, reliable energy source. As an independent, non-profit intervener, Californians for Green Nuclear Power, Inc., for years advocated before the state for clean nuclear power to support the interests of the environment, ratepayers, and public safety. We've been met by a stone wall of denial, obstruction, and obfuscation. Consider the recent procurement order issued by the California Public Utilities Commission that requires utilities to provide an additional 11,500 megawatts of energy by 2026. That's 2 days. That's 2 years after Diablo Canyon shuts down. In the document and in the comments to the news media, the CPUC has claimed that the new energy must be emission-free. How will that be possible given the short time frame? That's one of the questions Californians need to be asking themselves. Here's a hint. Incremental imports could help meet short-term resource needs, while resources are planned and constructed to address the 2026 shortfall, a document filed by this California Independent System Operator in 2020 states. Clearly, there must be an out-of-state electricity supplier. In fact, the CPUC document even references unspecified imports in one section of the procurement order. This is a California legal euphemism mostly applied to out-of-state coal-fired generation. One of the most likely candidates to provide imports is PacifiCorp, a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which owns several coal and natural gas plants in the West and is constructing an energy gateway transmission project that will link several states. There is already a transmission line in southern Nevada that links a Southern California Edison substation, providing access to the California grid. Despite a 2006 California law, SB 1368, that sets an emission standard for power provided to California, PacifiCorp obtained an exemption due to its small footprint in California. With 5,234 megawatts of coal-fired power and 3,013 megawatts of natural gas power, PacifiCorp operates in marked contrast to Pacific Gas and Electric, which already has 85% carbon-free power and no coal. The Clean Air Task Force Toll from Coal website tabulated annual deaths from air pollution caused by coal-fired power plants. Based on those calculations, BHE's Western U.S. power plants were responsible for 276 deaths in 2019. Keeping Diablo Canyon running past 2025 will prevent the annual emissions of about 15 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, as well as prevent substantial quantities of toxic oxides of nitrogen, sulfur, and mercury from being emitted. Yet the California Public Utilities Commission is acquiescing to Diablo Canyon's closure. The CPUC is the state agency in charge of overseeing public utility matters that affect every Californian, yet it occupies a place in our state's legal landscape devoid of accountability, oversight, or independent review. This is just lots of great news.
Sounds like they just want it dead, man. They just want Diablo Canyon dead. Mm-hmm. That's long and short of it.
And they are not, I think we need to be like real in saying they are not interested in actually bringing emissions to zero.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think that they are. They're interested in the PR of wind and solar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a pattern, man. I mean, and it's ridiculous because look at all this coal. And we've had that same problem in Florida. You know, you hear talk all the time about the pollution from Turkey Point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I keep telling people, hey, there's a place called Indiantown that has a coal plant that's about the same distance to the north of Miami. Nobody talks about it. Nobody even knows it exists. I got to tell environmentalists, you got a coal plant near you. But everybody knows about Turkey Point
mm-hmm.
and how monumentally environmentally destructive it is. So according to urban legend, it's ridiculous.
There is no pollution at Turkey Point.
Is what?
There is no pollution at Turkey Point nuclear.
Turkey
I know
Point.
that. I'm being facetious. I'm quoting them. I'm not. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know?
But Phil, what about the tritium, right?
Oh man, weak sauce.
Yeah, tritium is probably the most bad faith complaint about nuclear. It is, of course, it is a radioisotope which has a extremely weak emission and is part of our natural background radiation that's created every day in the upper atmosphere. So it's simply it's gross to see environmentalists use tritium as sort of this false flag in order to try to criticize a clean energy source. Let me finish this up.
Yeah.
Appellate review of the Commission's decisions is typically unavailable. Challenges are denied without explanation. CPUC commissioners, those of the California Energy Commission and the California Independent System Operator Board of Governors are all appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Absent the possibility of any meaningful review by an independent ratepayer organization, the three groups effectively rubber stamp the governor's policy objectives. In 2015, there was an attempt to appoint a CPUC Inspector General to ensure ethical compliance. Then Governor Jerry Brown quashed that initiative. With the 2005 revision of the 1935 Public Utility Holding Company Act, deep-pocketed special interests can directly lobby the CPUC to obtain a favored treatment. It's going to take a fight against greedy special interests to keep Diablo Canyon running. Californians for Green Nuclear Power wants SLO, that's San Luis Obispo County, to follow California environmental laws when they review possible plant closure. We believe Californians can't afford to lose this fight. And I think there's one really interesting thing. I'm going to jump ahead to this this Twitter thread from Jesse Jenkins, where he talks about the new infrastructure and climate package. And there's something in here.
Is this part of the infrastructure plan?
Yeah. This is the infrastructure plan that just passed. And I don't see.
I want to hear more about that. Yeah.
I don't see it right now. It must have been another tweet from Jesse. He's a great Twitter account. You should definitely follow Jesse Jenkins. But in a different thread or sub-thread somewhere, he showed that the clean electricity standard, the clean power plan that's going to be national, uses the average of 2019 and 2020 as the baseline for everyone's clean power standards. So there's no generic kind of there's no generic one-size-fits-all plan for every state in the country. That would be monumentally unfair. So the good news is that a state that is really dirty in 2019 has an opportunity to come back and to build back better. And that's the point of this bill. And so, unfortunately, California, New York, and anyone else who shuts down their nuclear plants, they are literally hamstringing their performance under the Clean Power Plan. And so what the effect is going to be is that California and New York are going to pay a substantial fine for having worse emissions. But I guess as we read here, part of that fine is going to be passed on to Oregon, Nevada, Idaho, and Utah, the neighboring states that are part of that Pacificor, and Wyoming as well, part of that Pacificor provider. That's where this replacement power is going to be generated, through Pacificor in other states. So yet again, there's all this talk about how California is such a center of wealth and center of profitability, but under the covers, it looks like they're slipping benefit, these little quiet benefits from their neighboring states.
I believe Wyoming is bringing a lot of wind power.
Wyoming absolutely brings a lot of wind power, and I think it mostly comes to Washington and also the Midwest. But let me look at where that is again, and who is the. If I can find it on electricity map, we can see where that power is headed, I think. Oh, no, it is Wyoming. Yeah, Wyoming is Pacificor. That's right.
Yeah, they got
Was
a
it-
lot, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm intermittence in general. I'm not crazy about because you always got to get the. It seems like unless you got like a hydro, to back it up, or maybe geothermal too. Though geothermal could do it.
You just have to repeat the idea that wind and solar have decarbonized grids to completion. Nowhere on Earth.
Nowhere on Earth.
There it is. The best time in the last 24 hours, Pacific or East, which is Wyoming, generated 15% of its electricity from wind, and that's 43% of available capacity.
Yeah, 15% is substantial, though. I mean, I will say that.
15, not 50.
15. No, I know.
Okay.
I heard that. No, I said 15.
Okay, yeah, it's better than nothing, but
Better than nothing. I mean, yeah. It's got to be backed up by fossil fuels. I mean, nuclear would be a better choice, absolutely. But I'll tell you something. I think I read that, believe it or not, and it's a red state too, so it's surprising that they did a survey of Wyoming people. I'm pretty sure it's Wyoming, and they said that they were more concerned about nuclear than coal as far as pollution goes. So it's. I'm pretty sure it was Wyoming. I was shocked.
That is pretty shocking. It's we need to get back to that message that, look, no one has ever suffered from the emissions of the average nuclear plant, and the worst, the two worst cases ever hurt fewer people on their worst day than fossil fuels hurt every day of the week.
Yeah. It's an old thing, but it's true. The more you repeat something, the more people believe it, whether it's true or false. And this is what we've been hearing. And I mean, when you talk about decarbonization, you see pictures, you don't see a nuclear plant, hardly ever. Most of the time you see windmills and solar panels. And when they talk about it, they only talk about it in terms of windmills and solar. Like nuclear doesn't exist. I saw a video by Vice, which is on HBO, about decarbonization in China. And to me, it was scandalous because nuclear was mentioned once. And I mean, this is about a half-hour video. Nuclear mentioned, you saw nuclear once on the screen. And it was only on a chart that happened to flash showing the different power sources. Everything that they spoke about that was going on in China in terms of decarbonization was wind and solar. It was like there was no such thing as nuclear. I mean, that's so dishonest. I mean, it's so Orwellian, but this is what goes on,
Great. So this is the Californians for Green Nuclear Power. I'll put this link in chat, especially for everyone out there. And I think it's also heading to my Twitter for some reason. That's all right. Or maybe that's Periscope. But interesting to see that come back. And so next up, I've got to switch browsers because I haven't subscribed to Bloomberg yet, unfortunately. And we're talking about Germans flirt with power crunch in nuclear and coal exit. So, of course, one of Germany's biggest challenges in the fight against climate change is to keep the lights on. As Europe's biggest economy shuts its last nuclear reactor next year, and utility RWE warns that coal plants may close earlier than planned, critics say green energy isn't being added quickly enough. Germany's ability to meet peak demand is poised to shrink rapidly over the next 2 years, increasing the risk of blackouts. In a last push to save her fading reputation as the climate chancellor before stepping down after next month's election, Angela Merkel announced Europe's strictest emission goals, but the green power revolution she fronted for almost 2 decades is running out of steam, just as the electrification of the economy will increase demand. There is no doubt that security of supply must be high on the priority list of the next government, and political action is urgent, said Alexander Nolden, chief economist at RWE. The new climate law is a real game changer for Germany. It means a much higher ambition and will demand much higher speed for the changes needed. So here's a look at the supply margin per year. I hope that we find out what this means, but we can see that between 2015 and 2020, we have a 16 to 27% supply margin, and then after 2021,
this is all clean energy.
No, this is total electricity supply, I believe.
Oh.
And so that supply margin drops way down after 2020.
That's when they close the plant.
Yeah, and I think this is when blackouts can occur because you have not enough supply. Merkel admits her government got it wrong. Power demand will probably increase more than official forecasts by the end of the decade, she said in June. A month earlier, she recognized that increasing local opposition and too much bureaucracy have curbed investments in green power. For a long time, Germany showed the world how renewable energy could be added to make up a substantial share in the power mix. Now, the Norwegian utility Statkraft SF says it takes twice as long to build a wind park in Germany compared with the US. Complaints from locals, a lack of space, stricter environmental standards, and a longer permitting process are just some of the reasons growth is slowing. And this is a pretty in-depth article. I think we might just skip it because it goes into, the way that Bloomberg does. They go into a lot of different cases. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and post this in chat, and you can maybe.
I would make a suggestion, Carl, that instead of reading all of these articles in full, that you kind of just highlight the stuff that the most important points.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I like to cut them short when I see they're going long. And this one's a long one. I think we might just take it at one shot and just the title is almost enough. From the Korea Times, nuclear phase-out policy should be reversed, and this is an opinion from Park Jin. Essentially, we know that for political reasons, Korea is shutting down their nuclear plants, and
all of them.
That. As many as they can, I think, was the idea.
They have a very big amount of nuclear power in South Korea.
Yeah, in South Korea, that's right. Yeah. So the Moon administration ordered a restart of 3 reactors. So these 3 reactors had already been shut down, and they were ordered to restart in order to prevent, power shortages.
Well, that should be something that, from what I've heard, the United States, you can't do that. Once it's decommissioned, they just start tearing stuff down. Mm-hmm. I mean, I asked an expert about this. I forget his name, but he's like, a guy who's really good with economics, and he's a nuclear engineer as well. And he said that you can mothball a nuclear plant, and reopen it at a later date. But the NRC doesn't have any kind of, protocols or procedures for that.
It's very rare. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it.
There's a NRC rule against restarting.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's it.
Wow. Yeah, they have some rule that prohibits it, but needs to be changed. There's
needs to be eliminated.
Not a technical basis to that. It's just a
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about this. There's one plant that my dad worked on in East Tennessee, Watts Bar 2, and I think you're right, Kurt, because in this case, Watts Bar 2 was not a restart. It was a new build that was paused and put into safe store, and then completed afterwards after our nuclear weapons maintenance needed more tritium. It's one of actually Watts Bar 1, Watts Bar 2, and the two other TVA plants are the only plants that are permitted for any kind of military support, and it's not weapons material directly. It's just the booster material. That's the last connection to the military program, and I think that we should do what we can with consumer choice to perhaps shut that program down. I think that'd be a fantastic show of our standards, that we don't want anything from nuclear power to be involved with the military industry.
Well, I don't know. I could be a little conspiratorial here, but maybe not so much, because it makes sense to say this. 75%, I think, is a recent survey of the American people support nuclear power. And this very well might run deeper than that, because a lot of stuff that people actually want does not go through Congress, because the powers that be, and the fossil fuel industry is the most powerful industry in existence. I believe still so. I'm not sure. But they will prevent, they don't want to see it. They don't want to see nuclear succeed. They don't want to see it expand. They want to see it shut down.
Right.
Isn't it true that the reason why nuclear plants get torn down so fast is because there's that huge monetary incentive to do so? Because of the decommissioning fund?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's certainly my theory. I go over this whenever I can. That basically we saw in our earlier article that that this nearly $4 billion decommissioning is already funded. That $3 billion is sitting there in a trust, waiting for that plant to shut down. And who knows? Let's see, what is this?
But that's not true in that case, because it's a loss, though.
It is a loss because they're shutting down early. They're shutting down way before the plant has completely turned profitable in terms of this greenfield plan. And what that means is to take the entire plant structure back to pristine conditions. Not something that happens in any other industry. They go to brownfield.
Yeah.
They get replaced with other industry, or they get replaced with anything. They get replaced with housing. There's people in Washington State super angry about industrial parks being turned into housing, but that's pretty standard. I mean, it's not much more dirty than a road going by my house.
I'll tell you, we're talking about the cheap fracking. One of the things that makes it cheap is they've gutted just about every environmental law imaginable. They just gave exemptions for fracking. That was the energy plan under Bush and Cheney that enabled that so much. They won't even. From what I've read, what the stuff that's put into the ground, they won't even say what it is. They could keep it secret.
Yeah, the fracking fluid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just it's such a how do you say, a double standard.
God, I was listening to a meeting AOC was having with other politicians, talking about how peaker plants are basically environmental racism, and basically we need to get rid of them, and they just assumed battery electric storage is the way to do it. And I'm like, look, you need those peakers if you're going to do wind and solar.
Yeah.
Those are super important for balancing wind and solar. And I don't know. I just don't think politicians know anything about energy.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is very true. And I'll tell you what, I mean, even with in nuclear, even in terms of the nuclear, I mean, in New York City, before they shut it down, I mean, they had the nuclear plants open, but they also had peaker plants, to supplement them. And I don't know if that even had anything to do with wind and solar.
You need peakers, like for anything.
Yeah.
Like it's peakers are so important. Like, you can't just will them away. I'm like, I don't know. It just makes me kind of, I don't know. Like, what if these politicians willed their way to happen? Like, they will destroy the electric grid. I honestly believe that. I mean, they're already starting to do that in places like Texas. It's annoying because now I sound like a crazed right winger,
Well, you're right.
Because when you talk about how, the reliance on wind and solar actually was a problem in the electric grid in Texas, then they're like, oh, you're just believing the lies of the right wing. And just like, look, I'm on the left and I can understand that that's actually the truth,
Yeah, I think AOC is reachable though. I remember her have the humility to say that I am not an expert on energy, but that's a good beginning.
Well, they had a lot of these kind of annoying little social justice like groups that claimed to be experts on energy, and I'm like, what they were saying was nonsensical either.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, and this goes right across the board. I don't care if you talk about anti-vax, because anti-vax, their thing is like big pharma, okay? Big pharma. And for a lot of people, you could just say you paint this black and white picture of the bad corporation and the good guy anti-vaxxers or the good guy environmental organizations. And your average person could be taken in by that, just by that dynamic.
It's like politics and religion that'll make you question
science
to benefit your narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying either. I mean, I'm to the left too. I mean, maybe more so than you, but there is some truth to the big bad corporation. But you have to see a bigger picture. It's not that simple. It never is.
Right. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there. My bad, Carl.
No, we want to hear you more. We want to hear you. When they're all you guys, I mean, I don't want to be the only one talking.
And I want to say hi to Base of PJ for hanging out in Twitch chat. Is Twitch chat on emote only? Geez, I am sorry. Let me fix that.
Yeah. More fixes.
Yeah.
We're going to get this going. One of these days, we're going to be so smooth, man. And
imagine if you paid me to do this.
I think we should change the name of the show to Ignati and the Klingon.
There we go.
And
imagine if you paid me to do this.
Or you don't want to hear it. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. I think we're pretty close to the end. We're pretty low on articles, but we can look at the thread from Jesse Jenkins.
All right. Let me ask a quick question, Carl. After we're done with this, could we do that recording real quick before, at the end of all of this, and knock that out, and then I'll have a thing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys don't mind, I'm probably gonna jump off right now just because my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna get going, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. I think we bored you all to death.
No. Okay.
No,
get
this
there.
was great. Yeah, thanks for showing up. Thanks for the commentary.
They're running away on us.
I always get a little boost from. Am I muted? No, I'm not. I always get
thanks
a
for
little
coming.
boost from
Seriously.
having help on the shows. So yeah. In fact, I'm investigating adding a new piece of technology that I really want to tell people about. It is called Round. I was privileged to see this piece of software from that production right there was the Seattle Online Broadcasters show, and I was able to help out and get this done. So
Wow, this looks like it really turned into a Klingon. Here we go.
yeah,
What is it? Animation?
it's for video conferencing.
Oh. Oh.
So maybe we'll get to try this out. So anyways, thanks everyone for the show. Gabe, how about we take a 15-minute break? I've got some other stuff I want to take care of, and then we'll do that recording.
All right. Why don't you do this, man? Call me. Just give me a phone call whenever you're ready to do it. I'm any time of the day.
Great.
Or even if you want to do it another day, that's okay too.
Awesome. Thanks for the show, everyone, and we'll see you next Saturday.
All right.
And here's
Good
the
enough.
outro.
Peace out.